Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Black Men Speak. I'm your co host, the J.R. Stewart,
And
creator of
I'm
The Ways of the Man Cave.
and I'm your co-host, D. Tommy D. Duncan III, otherwise known as TD3 Jimmy. It is Wednesday, October the 18th, 2023, and if it's Wednesday night,
It's certainly Black Men Speak, and you are definitely in the right place. So let's give a big shout out to Liquid for providing our theme music, to Forest Films in our own studio for providing our virtual studio, which allows us to bring this show to you every Wednesday at 8 p.m. And if you haven't already, please hit that like button, subscribe, and then spread the word. Invite a friend to come watch the show with you so you guys will have something interesting to talk about for the rest of the week. With that being said, Tom, let's jump on in and let's do what we do.
all right, Jimmy, we're going to start off, as we do every week and celebrate some of our birthday babies for this
All
week,
right.
especially if you are a late October baby. You may share a birthday with some of these folks that we are about to share with you
Well, bring
today.
it on, Tom. Let's see what we have this week.
All right, first birthday baby. Someone, anyone who may either be someone who loves movies and or Broadway may know this guy here.
Okay.
Joe Morgan. He has
Yes.
been in a lot of films that I've seen throughout, most of my time growing up, Jimmy. But very familiar face
Yes,
on a
he
lot
is.
of shows. I think probably the film I remember him most from as a leading actor is The Brother from Another Planet, Jimmy, and that was some time ago. I'm kind of Asian myself.
Okay.
But he also was American Gangster, which I guess that was 2007, Jimmy. But Joe Morgan, his birthday is on the day October the 18th. So very happy birthday to
Happy
him.
birthday, Joe.
All right, our next birthday baby, Jennifer Holliday. For those who love
Oh, man,
music,
singer. Okay.
yeah. Jennifer
Beautiful
Holliday,
voice, Tom.
exactly. Started out in Broadway with musicals. Jimmy, some folks remember the movie Dreamgirls, but before the movie came out, Jimmy, I mean, there was the Broadway play
Right.
Dreamgirls that she became the diva back in the early 80s. Then, of course, launched a successful recording career, Jimmy, and she was the original diva
Dream
in
girl.
Blue Blood for singing that great song. And I am telling you, I'm not going.
Tom, no one has ever come along and sung it better. I
No,
mean, no one. I mean, there have been a few who've tried, but she set the bar so high for that song that, yeah, she's ruined it for everyone else.
I don't think there. I don't. There's probably maybe a handful of divas who can even take it to that level. But she just blew that one out of the water, and everybody
Yes,
else
she
just
did.
needs to kind of stand by. She also won a Tony in 1982 for Dreamgirls and won a Grammy in 1983. So her birthday is tomorrow. Happy birthday
Happy
to
birthday, girl.
Jennifer Holiday. Uh, Next, for those who are in the rap game back in the day, and or who may watch a lot of commercials and a few films, you might know this guy,
Okay.
Snoop, Snoop Dogg, or I'm trying to remember the movie Jimmy, where the Italian guy was in a movie and he called him Snoopy Dog.
I don't remember the movie, Tom, but I just recently saw him on Monday Night Football that was featuring our Cowboys versus the Rams, and he was part of the introduction, the song, Monday Night Football song. So, okay,
Yeah,
well, happy birthday to the Snoop Dogg.
yeah, but Calvin Broadus is his government name. Of course, he's
Okay,
known by practically everybody under his moniker. Snoop Dogg really came into the light, Jimmy, when Dr. Dre came out with his debut solo album, Deep Cover, and then really hit it on his second album called Chronic. Jimmy has sold over 23 million albums in the US and 35 million albums worldwide.
okay,
So happy birthday to Snoop.
happy birthday.
And he's going to be, has a birthday in a couple of days on October the 20th, Jimmy. And this guy, you might know, Jimmy, just because of your basketball affiliation,
Oh, okay.
Sheldon Williams. He is an old Duke guy. And I remember you are a
Yes,
big Duke fan.
very big Duke fan. Yes, I
But
remember him.
yeah, Sheldon Williams, born on October the 21st, was a basketball standout for the Duke Blue Devils, nicknamed the Landlord while at Duke and played 7 seasons with the NBA. earned the 2005 and 2006 NABC Defensive Player of the Year, while at Duke became the 5th player in history to earn an award for two consecutive years, and still, I believe to this day, may hold the Duke career record for blocks, single season block record, and the rebounding record.
Okay. Well, happy birthday.
So, exactly. So I figured you would enjoy that. That's one of your Duke guys. He's born on October the 21st. And our last one for this year, another songstress, the Diane Reeves.
Wow. Okay.
Music fans. She is folks from Detroit. She is a Detroit, Michigan native. Sang and recorded with many artists: Stanley Turrentine, Lenny White, Billy Childs, and also founded a band called the Night Flights with Billy Childs. Moved to New York City in the mid-'80s and toured with the late great Halle Belafonte, and then went on to win 5 Grammy Awards. They don't give out Grammy Awards the last time I checked.
They don't, Tommy. You have to really bring it, man. And so to have 2 divas in 1 week on one show, that's pretty impressive. Yep. Happy birthday.
Yep, Jimmy. So those are our birthday babies for this week. Happy birthday for everyone out there who has a birthday, just had a birthday or a birthday coming up this week. And this covers our birthdays for the next week.
Well, if there's anyone out there who has a birthday this week, it's not too late to get your chat in and let us know, and we can make the announcement. But you need to do it quick.
Yep, absolutely. So before we go into our stories for today, we have Miss Audrey K. Booker, who is on the chat line. So we want to welcome her. Thank you for joining us this evening, Audrey K. Booker. And of course, Uncle Asar, otherwise known as my good friend, the Asar Al-Kabilan of the African Genius podcast. If you've not seen that yet, you want to know what's going on within the Pan-African community, check out the African Genius podcast on YouTube.
Please do.
All right, Jimmy, let's go ahead and go into our story. We have a couple of interesting stories.
Okay.
That we'd like to share with our community today, Jimmy. And we're going to start out with a business. A business. So some of you may know this beautiful lady here, yes, Miss Patti Labelle. She has recently partnered with the owners of the Chophouse, the Brooklyn Chophouse, and they have put together an exclusive agreement to provide their dumpling recipes to Walmart.
Wow, okay.
So for those of you who are in the Northeast, for those of you in the Brooklyn area who may have dined at this place before and eaten their delicious dumplings, well, they've been selling their dumplings for a little while, Jimmy, and they now are going to be in Walmart. And, I think I may have heard of this place before, but I have never eaten their food before. But this was facilitated by Labelle's company, ZPEC. I think most folks already know that she has her Patty's sweet potato pie.
Love those pies. But she also has a peach cobbler, which is very good. My wife loves the peach cobbler. It's a little too sweet for me, but it's very good, Tom. But definitely the sweet potato pies and the peach cobbler and peach and apple cobbler.
Gotcha. And I'm not a big cobbler fan. I'm more of a cake guy.
Okay.
But, every now and again, I'll get something that I like. The deal will allow the Brooklyn Chophouse's grocer frozen dumplings to be sold in over 1,000 Walmarts across the country. The dumplings are available in classic pork, mac and cheese, Korean barbecue-inspired beef, cheese and bacon, and chocolate cake. Now, I thought that was interesting. Wow. Chocolate cake dumplings.
Well, good. And people go out and give it a try and support the sisters. So
exactly, and the Chophouse. And the dumplings have already been sold out in several of our stores. I guess they've done some pilot programs, Jimmy, and obviously it's doing pretty well. I had no idea that there were dumplings even
same here.
Exactly, Walmart. So for those of you out there, probably especially in the East Coast, maybe the Midwest, they're going to be spreading out to about 1,000 locations worldwide. We want to make sure that this program is successful, Jimmy. That's something that we advocate for, which is building our economy and, of course, having a strong education for our kids. And so, this is one of the areas where we strongly align with the values of growing the Black economy and or entrepreneurship. So, of course, we wish them the best of luck. Go out there and get some of those dumplings and make sure that
Yes.
this initiative is successful. Next, Jimmy, we've actually missed this story the last couple of shows that I've wanted to talk about briefly. It was kind of interesting, but it's a tech billionaire who spends millions of dollars on his health every year. And I thought there was some interesting points to kind of talk about, what he's been doing and how that might relate to our community. Jimmy, I know we've talked quite a bit about the health or lack thereof within the Black community. But Brian Johnson, who's a 46-year-old tech entrepreneur, spends $1 million annually on a team of experts to monitor his health and conduct experiments on him. And what his goal is to get his organs to look and act like that of an 18-year-old. He's trying to pursue immortality and or extend his life. And so, Jimmy, his regimen includes a strict bedtime of 8:30 p.m., taking
Okay.
over 100 pills a day,
Ouch.
collecting stool samples that they are looking at, and then having a small device around his lower parts to monitor nighttime things that go on. But until recently, he was even paying hundreds of thousands of dollars each month to infuse his teenage son's plasma into his own bloodstream. I'm assuming that presumably is supposed to help with his organ health.
I guess, Tom. I'm not sure what the scientific benefit of that. I mean, unless you're getting, unless you're getting some of the white blood cells, and that can really do have some benefit for your body. I'm not sure just the plasma injection, but hey, whatever works for him. If it works for him, then let it work. Um, I'm just a little guarded, Tom, that you don't cross the line. I mean, you're taking. Hopefully, this is your son doesn't mind giving the blood, but hopefully you're not having offsprings to use them as organ donors or blood donors or plasma donors in this particular case.
Yeah, Jimmy, it does get a little bit scary. I don't know if you saw that movie a while ago, and I'm not saying that he or anybody else would actually do this, but sometimes what you see on movies emulate what's happening in the world. I don't
True.
know if you saw that movie Get Out,
Yes.
and they were in essence kidnapping young Black men and harvesting their organs
Yep.
and their brain, different body parts and things of that nature, and putting it in the bodies of wealthy people in order to restore their health, prolong their life, doing all kinds of things that are unnatural, Jimmy. And it sometimes gets pretty scary out there because a lot of times what you see in the movie is kind of a precursor to what's going on. I remember watching some movies a year ago about these great plagues. And, lo and behold, a couple of years ago, what happens, even though it may not be the exact same thing?
That's right. So yes, Tom. So you need to be. We need to be careful as a society with this type of medical advancement that we don't cross the line. Certainly you've heard of cases where people have went out and developed or produced a second child, for example, because their first child was sick, maybe need an organ donor, a kidney or something, and they would have a second child just for the match could be more compatible. So I mean, I really kind of draw the line on doing stuff like that, but I know it happens. So, but anyway,
Yeah,
we'll see how this turns out.
right. And then one of the things that I thought was, pretty intriguing. He says that even though it requires a lot of work and a lot of time, I guess he has the money to do what he wants to do when he wants to do it. He says most of it can really be boiled down to a few achievable things, and that's one, going to bed on time, exercising every day, and avoiding things that cause your body harm. People pursue healthier living, often gravitate towards things they can start doing, but they don't think about the things that they can stop doing. Junk food,
True.
social media, just being active as opposed to staying in the house and doing nothing all day. And these very few simple rules can really be adopted by both men and women.
True.
Um, you know, eating more vegetables and or eating smaller portion sizes. I know, which we've talked about in the past, Jimmy, is applicable to male or female, anyone of any ethnicity, in terms of promoting overall better health.
Well, Tom, the thing since I've had to pay more attention to my health as I've gotten older and allow myself to get out of shape is really just how little food you actually need to get by. That, I was eating way too much food, gained a bunch of weight, and now it's like, yeah, I don't need nowhere near that amount of food to survive each day. So, so yeah, portion control and what you eat is very important.
Absolutely, Jimmy. So we'll see what happens. I'll monitor anything that happens on this. I actually found this one interestingly enough. On Fox, didn't really know how it aligned. With whether they have a healthcare segment or something of that nature. But I thought it was an interesting story. We talked a lot, and we've had some healthcare practitioners on our show. We talked
Yes.
about some of the very simple things that we do. We know that health is a multi-billion-dollar business with fad diets and all of these things, Jimmy. Which I'm not saying what to do or what not to do with your own health, but really, as we've done the research, the things that you can do to maintain reasonably good health is pretty simple. You don't have to be an Olympic athlete. You don't have to run the 40-yard dash in 4.3 or 4.4, Jimmy. But getting out and doing some exercise, 30 to 40, I think most doctors say if you get maybe a good 30 to 45 of a brisk walk every day, you don't have to.
Yeah, 20 minutes plus just to get the heart going and putting the blood pumping. So it's generally at the minimum what you can do.
Exactly. Get enough rest. 7 to 8 hours a night, preferably. It not just helps you physically, but it also helps you mentally because it gives your body time to heal. It gives your brain to go back and recalibrate, and it allows your body to do what it was naturally designed to do. By God, Jimmy, and just being active, drinking
True.
plenty of water, and staying hydrated. Really simple things that you can do. And the more junk and the more stuff that you're doing that's bad for your health, the more you have to overcompensate on the things that you're supposed to
Right. Well, and plus, when you're young, Tom, your body can deal with it. As you get older,
do.
your body becomes less has less of ability to overcome the poison that you're putting into it. So our bodies are basically just chemical processing machines, and it does everything possible, Tom, to keep us alive and to counter the poisons that we put into it. But there's only so much your body can take. So much your kidneys and livers are going to be able to strain out, and a lot of that junk accumulates in your fat cells. And as you get older, it becomes more and more of a problem. So.
Gotcha. So let's go ahead and go to our next story, Jimmy. And
Well,
I'm going
before
to.
we go to the next story, Tom, we
Yeah.
got a couple of people that just came on the chat line,
Oh,
so
okay. Okay,
let's
good
mention them
stuff.
real quick.
So, yeah, Miss Tanya Hall of KGGR News Show is on the line. The commish Ed Gray. Good evening, my good friend and
Good
fraternity
evening.
brother Ed Gray. The commish radio show on Saturday
Every
mornings.
yes, every Saturday, people go out and check it out. It's a good show.
Absolutely. Miss Chastity Christian, our resident educator, on the line today. And there we go, Miss Audrey K. It's all about balance and owning your age and grace. All
Okay.
right. Absolutely. Let's go to our next story. And Jimmy, I'm not gonna lie, I am not the biggest baseball fan at all, but we have got to spend at least a couple of minutes.
Oh yeah, we got to mention those Texas Rangers, Tom. They're the
Yeah, those Texas Rangers
ALCS, man. Nobody
and the
expected them
Astros. We got a
to
lot of
be there.
folks who watch our show from Dallas and Houston, Jimmy, and they are in the American League Championship
Yes,
Series. I
they
think
took game one against Houston.
game 3 is tonight, Jimmy. The Rangers are up 2-0.
Okay, I'm behind then. They took game one and game two.
Yes,
Look at
yes,
our Rangers. Go Rangers.
exactly. They are. I saw this the other day. The Texas 2-step. They're up 2-0 right now in the series, Jimmy. And actually, I don't know. Depending on what happens tonight, Rangers are in very narrow company. They barely got into the playoffs.
They did.
They won 2 games over the Tampa Bay Rays in the wild card series, swept that one, won 3 over the Baltimore Orioles, who were the top seed in the American League, and now they're up 2-0, which means that they are 7-0 in the postseason. Are one.
Well, Tom, they in Houston were the former champions.
Yes, they won it all last year, and
So
there are only 4 teams, Jimmy, 4 teams that have won 7 in a row in the playoff series. There was last year's Houston Astros, who won it all in the World Series, the 2014 Kansas City Royals, who got to the to the World Series, but lost to the 49ers back in 2014. Colorado Rockies went up 7-0 before getting swept by the Boston Red Sox in their World Series in 2007. Then Cincinnati Reds were perfect 7-0 in the 1976 postseason. So they are actually on coveted ground right now, Jim.
Well, Tom, I'm not a big baseball fan either, man, and but I do like playoff baseball. The suspense of it. I mean, every pitch, everything matters now. When you're playing 162 games, you get one up here and there is no big deal. But come playoffs, every game counts, every pitch counts, every swing of the bat counts, and the suspense and the that builds up on every play. To me, is very rewarding. So I'll watch playoff baseball. I normally don't watch it that much during the season.
Not at all.
I have a brother, he invites us out to the game. And I go because they have a luxury box and the food is good. So
They have good hot dogs, Jimmy.
yeah, it's good hot dogs, hamburgers, and some other food items. And they normally have the place liquored up. I'm not a big drinker though, but yeah, they spare no expenses. So whenever I get fortunate enough to get an invite, the wife and I generally go out to the game.
Well, Jimmy, they better enjoy this because in the 63, I didn't realize it had been that long, 63 years they've been in existence. They've never won a World Series, Jimmy. And I know they went back to the World Series in 2010, 2011. Unfortunately,
They went back to back, man. Didn't get it done. Them damn San Francisco Giants took it away from us, I think, one time. But
yeah,
hopefully this time, if they go back, I hope they recognize you got to get business done because there's no telling when you'll come back again. So don't take it for granted that you're going to be here every year.
exactly. So, the Astros won it last year. I know they won one before. We'll see what happens. Best of luck to the Texas Rangers. And maybe I'll even watch a game, Jimmy. I just
there you go.
Maybe I was talking to my dad about this. Like, man, they just move too slow. They got a profile before they throw a pitch, before they pitch a phone. He's like, I just get bored watching baseball.
I know it's not the most exciting sport,
yeah,
man.
It may have been passed down from father to son. He can't watch baseball either. It just moves too slow.
Got it.
But we wish him the best of luck.
Yes, we do.
And for the Rangers fans, go Rangers. For the Astros fans, go Astros. Hopefully one of them will win the World Series, regardless of who actually wins the American League.
Keep it here in Texas, yes.
Absolutely. All right, Jimmy, let's go to our next sports story. And this is kind of an interesting one.
Okay.
That is someone who is in one sport but getting recognized for their impact on another sport. The Steph Curry, superstar NBA player of the Golden State Warriors, has been selected for the Charles Sifford Award for his work in advancing diversity in golf.
Okay.
So he is an avid golfer, Jimmy, and he, I guess during off season, when basketball season's not in, he plays a lot of golf. 2 years ago, he launched the Underrated Golf. He launched Underrated Golf, committed to providing access and opportunity to high school athletes from all communities to get engaged in the sport of golf. One thing I did not know, he also he funded the Howard University golf team for 6 years to help Howard, which of course is a historically black college, compete on the Division I level. And so, obviously, golf is not a cheap sport.
It's not.
I've played a little bit. I haven't played in several years, but you have to spend a little money when you're playing golf, and you can. It takes a long time to get good, and you get bad really quick.
Yes, that's true.
You get bad really quick.
I know the pros make it look easy, Tom, but it's a very difficult game. It can be very frustrating when you don't play well.
Right. But doing a little bit more of a historical analysis, Charlie Sifford was the first black player to become a PGA Tour member back in 1961, Jimmy. And this is some history that a lot of folks probably are not aware of. We've done a couple of historical pieces on black golfers, but he is the very first African American, who was elected to this very coveted club. And of course, this is a much later picture of him playing golf as well. And so this award was named after Charlie Sifford. He was inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame in 2004. And of course, this is selected every year to someone who makes an impact in golf, Jimmy. And so, of course, we want to wish, of course, Stephon Curry the best of luck. He received the award at the World Golf Hall of Fame ceremony in Pinehurst, North Carolina on June the 10th, which is going to be the Monday before the U.S. Open. And so we want to definitely take our hat off to what he is doing, making sure that the sport is accessible to folks of all walks of life, not just for those who are privileged and or who have money.
Well, plus, Tom, we've chronicled on this show how golf is not necessarily a white sport. I mean, black people have a deep, rich history with golf, and so our interest in golf did not start with Tiger Woods. It goes way back to the very beginning of golf in America. So that's where our history with golf starts, and we pointed that out on this show with a number of golf greats. And so, but yes, let's for those who are interested in the sport, if you find a way to go out there and play, get better. There are a lot of scholarship opportunities, Tom, for kids on golf scholarships. A lot of these universities can't find enough kids to give the scholarships to.
Yep. So hopefully this opens the floodgates for folks with different backgrounds. We'll see a lot more diversity in golf. It is somewhat of a lily white sport, but it has been growing and expanding, just like what the Williams sisters have done for tennis, and opened the door and given a lot more exposure to other kids who can dream of being the greatest in that particular sport. They're doing that same thing in golf and breaking down some of those barriers. So let's go ahead and go to another story. We talked about this some time ago, Jimmy, but an update on a story that we've talked about before. Carlee Russell, a young lady, Alabama, who made a call about seeing a toddler on a highway and then being kidnapped, and found out that that wasn't exactly the truth, has been found guilty of 2 misdemeanor charges. And that's a recent update. She actually admitted that she had lied about the kidnapping of the toddler and then pleaded not guilty when she went to court. The case is, I think, now going possibly to Bessemer Circuit Court, which is in Jefferson County, Alabama, which of course is in the Birmingham area, Jimmy. So this is kind of an interesting story that we talked about before, and I think she has been charged, I think, about $18,000 in court costs, and I believe 120 days in jail. But they are
Yes. And so, Tom, this is an interesting case because she eventually pled not guilty to the charges, but she admitted to faking the phone call. And I believe her lawyer has come out and said that they're willing to pay the fine, which is really high. $18,000 is a pretty high fine for 2 misdemeanors. But the 120 days in jail is what they're appealing. And so I kind of agree with them there that if she only got convicted of 2 misdemeanor charges, this is the first time offense,
Yes.
then that's 4 months in jail time for a first time offense and a misdemeanor charge on top of that. I mean, probation would seem like it'd be more in line with what she should be sentenced to. So let's hope that on appeal that the appeals court will give her a sentence that's more in line with what people who are found guilty of misdemeanors receive. I mean, I know they're trying to set an example on
Teach
her.
her a lesson.
You teach her a lesson, but yeah, 4 months in jail for 2 misdemeanors is excessive.
Yeah, Jimmy, we've seen a lot less for a lot more. I mean, again, there was the story where the kid, the privileged kid, had ran over somebody, and got really no time in jail. I think some community service or something like that, some years ago. And so you've got folks who've actually killed people who have gotten literally no time in jail. And what she did was definitely wrong. But when you consider the restitution when you consider the amount of time in jail that she would spend with, quite frankly, some hardened criminals. This one is a little bit of a stretch for me. I think a lot of folks have done a lot worse than just gotten community service.
Well, Tom Plus, the actor from Empire, was Juicy Jesse Smollett.
Yeah, Justice
I'm not
Smollett.
trying to pronounce his name, but yeah, I mean, I know he's still out on appeal, but he hadn't served any time, and he hadn't even paid the fine. So at least she's willing to pay the fine and move on. So let her pay the fine, give her probation, and let the girl move on to life.
Yeah,
I'm sure she's learned her lesson by now.
I would think so. Probably very embarrassing. I think I even saw something that your friend Candace Owens, Jimmy, may have
Oh,
to pay her $18,000 to get an exclusive interview about her story.
oh, okay. Well,
I
I
saw
would take it.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would take it as long as the check from Turning Point clears. I would take it and do the interview time. I'm sure everyone's curious to know. Really, the biggest question is why. And we can all um, sort of guess that maybe she did it for for
attention.
attention,
Yeah,
but
obviously.
there may be something else going on with her. Who knows? But yeah, take the girl, take that interview, take the money, and pay your fine and move on in life.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, if she happened to be a little bit brighter, Jimmy, she may have gotten a little bit more grace on this one, but she doesn't happen to be lighter. She probably is not going to get very much grace or very many, you know,
Tom, this is
apologies.
a slam dunk. When they can look at the sentencing guidelines, see what other people who've been convicted of misdemeanors have received, which is no jail time, generally just a fine of community service or probation, and to be sentencing her to 4 months in jail. And even the fine time, I think, is excessive. But her lawyer said they're willing to pay it. So let her pay it, Tom. Give her probation and move on in life. You've been reimbursed for the cost of all of this, so let her move on in life. I mean, yeah, throwing her in jail serves. There's nothing to be gained from throwing her in jail at this point.
Right, right. And I'm pretty sure it'll probably be even as easy as a GoFundMe if it comes right down to it in order to pay the restitution for this case. The only key is getting away from the jail time. All
So
right.
we're gonna keep an eye on this story and let everybody know how it turns out.
All right, Jimmy. Let's kind of go to a little international news. We try to cover the world within the time that we have, Jimmy. But I found an interesting story that the president of Kenya has visited China here recently. This past week, Kenyan President William Ruto. We actually covered Kenya within the last several months. He is the newly elected president of Kenya. Went to Beijing this past week and participated in China's third Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation in China. And it's one of China's most important events of the year. This is actually the 10th anniversary for this initiative, which actually aims to create trade and infrastructure networks throughout Asia, Europe, and Africa.
Well, Tom, this is what bothers me, man, is that um, I mean, the Chinese use these opportunities, and they come with a check. They come with money.
Yeah,
They don't come with just talk. I mean, they're actually investing in Africa, doing stuff. And then when our government representatives go to Africa, we have our VP, chastising them about, their alphabet people rights, with no check in hand. And still, I'm not sure if that pledge of $52 billion has been delivered on. And in fact, I know it hasn't been delivered on because we've been having some stalemates in Congress where things are not getting through. And we've been so focused on the Ukrainian war and now Israel that we've forgotten about our pledges to Africa. So but the Chinese are going with money in hand, Tom. So it's not just lip service, but once again, they are basically buying access to get the resources of Africa.
you're
And so
correct.
I wish that black folks here in America that we were leading the way for outreach to do trade with Africa because let's face it, Tom, they need trading partners. And so if you're going to trade with anyone, trade with your own kind. We may have a better chance of getting favorable deals the Chinese just want to replace the Western powers. So you kick France out, you kick some other Western nations out, and as they're leaving, the Chinese are coming in, them and the Russians.
Yeah, Jimmy. Well, this is the deal, and you are right. Beijing has already spent $5 billion on an expensive infrastructure project for a train line throughout Africa that connects different.
And Tom, they own the train line. It's not like a gift. This is not charity. They actually own it. I mean, they're developing it, but they own the train line.
And
so a key part of your infrastructure to move goods around are going to be in the hands of Chinese.
And this is to add injury to insult, if you want to put it that way. The word is that he intends on asking China for another $1 billion loan and a debt repayment structuring plan for the debt that they already owe China.
Well, Tom, and generally the Chinese are good about restructuring those things, but the restructure is always in their favor.
Well, Jimmy, this is the thing. If we liken this to like a car loan or to a house loan, what ends up happening is you end up owing more money over a long period of time, and you end up getting in more debt. I mean, if you look at the good book, the good book says that these loans are like slavery.
Yes.
And so it's once you get into a hole, Jimmy, it's going to be very difficult to get out of it. And again, we are advocating.
Well, plus, Tom, when you're in a hole like that and they come asking for something, you can't say no.
Correct.
Your hands are tied at that point. You have to say yes when you owe people money like that and you're in debt. And so once again, I wish that they were not so strapped for cash, which I know a lot of countries are. But if there's any way that we can increase trade between the U.S. and Africa, because I look at what the Philippines have done, I look at what the Malaysian people have done, and definitely South Korea. Tom, Singapore is one of the richest nations now, and they just snuck up on everyone. But they're one of the richest nations in the world now because after trading moves from the U.S. to Europe, it goes to Singapore. I mean, all the trading is done through Singapore rather than Japan or Australia, where it used to be. And as a result, Tom, that nation has gotten filthy rich from U.S. trade. They're in a key position. But now Africa, there's no country or countries better positioned. I mean, their entire coastline faces the Americas. Yes. South America, Central America. Tom, we don't have to go through the Panama Canal to get goods from America or from the Americas to Africa or vice versa. So I wish the African nations would seize on trading with the Americas up and down the coast, North America, Central America, South America, as opposed to reaching out to our Asian partners to trade with.
Yeah, Jimmy. Well, I mean, you bring up some very salient points there. China is the second largest creditor to Kenya after the World Bank. Kenya has now accumulated over $68 billion in debt, which actually 67% of their gross domestic product.
Tom, that's way too much. Wow. Yeah. Almost 70% of everything you produce, really?
You're having to pay debt service. And the interesting thing about it is politics is politics. During the election campaign, Ruto had denounced the predecessors' outstanding loans that they had pledged to, but now it looks like he's going in and asking for more loans. And a third of the Kenyan population lives under the poverty line. So this does not look like a very good thing to me. I mean, inflation is very high, not very many jobs. 1/3 of your population is in poverty. And so, I understand that I understand you have to build infrastructure and foundation in order for your country to grow, in order to attract business, Jimmy. Right. But, when you look at Kenya, when you look at the 54 total countries on the continent of Africa, the wealthiest landmass in the world, when you look at mineral resources, when you look at human capital, Jimmy, and unfortunately, some decisions have been made that they're still paying for.
Yes, that is true.
So this is going to be interesting. We're going to continue to keep tabs on what's going on.
Keep an eye on it and keep reporting back.
Absolutely, Jimmy. And now we're going to go to our next international story, which is kind of interesting. This one might have some potential Jimmy, Ghana and South America have now signed an agreement so that they have eliminated visa requirements in order to travel between those two countries. And I believe that there are some limitations on it. But starting on November the 1st of this year, travelers may now transit through, depart from, and stay in each of these two countries for a cumulative period of up to 90 days without recourse to work.
Okay. Well,
So,
Tom, that's one way to facilitate trade by opening up and removing travel restrictions. And certainly, if you don't need a passport to be able to travel between the countries, I mean, that certainly helps. So,
yeah, South Africa is the third largest economy on the African continent. Ghana is about the eighth largest economy on the African continent. And so obviously, there's a lot of business to be done. I think
yes.
that, we've talked about this on several occasions, is African countries doing more business, among other African countries in order to
Well,
build
Tom,
their
that's one
economy.
way to grow your way, to build your wealth and grow your way out of debt is to for internal trade on your own continent.
Which
So
means that you've got to lower the barriers to doing trade.
you really do.
And
So
so,
lowering the taxes, permits, I mean, the cost of doing business, I mean, all great things. So, I mean, I know it sounds counterproductive that you cut operating costs and development costs when you need money, but I mean, you need to attract the industry to come there and invest because in the end, it's the jobs they create which is more valuable than the money you're going to get off permits and tax them up front.
yeah.
So the long game is what you have to play.
And what I found interesting, Jimmy, is that Ghana actually has similar agreements with 63 countries worldwide, where it doesn't require a visa to travel, between
Well, Tom,
Ghana.
that's probably why they're one of the up and coming countries in Africa, because they're doing things the right way, and this is just one way to increase trade. Lower
Yeah,
travel barriers, let people come. Um, I mean, you still have a lot of Americans who are expats in Ghana, so which is a good thing, and I do think they have some. I think they have a requirement to either buy some land or have some money when you come. A lot of countries do. They don't let you just come broke, but there's not that much. It doesn't cost that much to go there and set up shop.
right. I was kind of curious about this. If the U.S. had these types of agreements, how many African countries do they have visa-free travel privileges? And I think there were
Mhm.
close to 15, Jimmy. Some of these you may be
I'm very
familiar
surprised that we actually
with.
have 15 times. I was going to
Yeah,
say
yeah.
none.
Botswana, Central African Republic, um, Morocco, Namibia, Senegal, South Africa, Tunisia. None of these, probably the blue bloods of African countries that we would think of,
Right.
but there were 15, and I was surprised that
I
there
was
were
very
15.
surprised too.
Exactly. Now, the other thing that I discovered as I was doing research on this is that, the largest economy does not have a reciprocal or a similar agreement with South Africa, which is Nigeria. Nigeria is actually the largest economy on the African continent. And some of their citizens were a little bit hot that Nigeria doesn't have a similar agreement with South Africa, which of course has one of the largest economies as well. I'm pretty sure that there are some political reasons behind that.
Okay.
So that's pretty interesting. But definitely hope that this helps grow the Ghanaian economy
Well,
in
it should be a
addition
start,
to
Tom, but adopting a model like the Europeans have with the EU, I mean, they basically eliminated travel restrictions, one one common currency between member nations, and central banking for multiple countries, as opposed to every country having its own central bank to control their money evaluation. So, the more Africa work in that direction to eliminate trade and then travel restrictions, but also work together to set up a common currency or at least more trade within. That's one way they can grow.
yeah, Jimmy. And again, I know we've talked about this on our show before, but in order for the African continent in lifting itself up, is going to have to, make some decisions. Some might be considered to be austere in nature, but you're going to have to cut the debt. When you look at, a common military that supports the African continent, a common currency, similar to what the European Union has done, lowering barriers to trade and doing business intra-Africa is going to be very important. And I think obviously because the African continent has been sliced and diced by so many European countries, the French who are now getting kicked out of some of their former colonies, the Spaniards, the Portuguese, the Dutch, the British, all of these folks, is aligning a central currency and also a common language that is going to tie the African countries together. We're talking about 54 countries. We talk about what China has done, 1.4 billion. We talk about what India has done, 1.4 billion. But we don't think of the African continent as 1.4 billion, but 1.4 billion it is in the African continent.
True.
So there's a lot of potential. But Kwame Nkrumah talked about a unified Africa. You've had other African leaders who have discussed a unified Africa, but Africa and Africans in other parts of the diaspora in the United States and South America and Europe have to support a global Pan-African vision of doing business and centralizing what the African continent is doing, because so goes a strong Africa, so goes Africans across the globe.
Well, the Africans across the globe, Tom, need to start coming together to facilitate some of that happen. So there's no reason why, Black folks around the globe can't start reaching out to establish some trade routes, doing more business with African nations. And so that starts with every individual person. So, if you have a shop, a retail shop, or a small business, look and dedicate some of your resources to reaching out to Africa and finding a business there you can trade with.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. A couple of comments from our good friend, Uncle Asa, who actually lived in Ghana and both Nigeria for a period of time in his early life. He said Nigeria is the largest economy because in 2014 they restructured how they measured it. As a matter of fact, the city of Lagos has the 5th largest economy on the entire continent, the city of Lagos itself.
Okay.
The AU, African Union 2063 plan, refers to a Pan-Africanism only in the sense of the continent, not the diaspora. So again, we have got to focus on a global strategy if we're going to strengthen our economy on the African continent, in the United States, in South America. South America, has more people of the African diaspora than actually the United States.
Sure.
So all that being said, hopefully get things to work out. Hopefully it grows the economics of the country. They are more interdependent within the continent than being codependent outside of the continent.
Okay.
All right, Jimmy, let's go to our next story, Jimmy. And I know we meant to kind of talk about and touch this, and that's immigration in America and its impact on the Black community as well. And I know we missed this during our last show, but we committed to making sure that we took some time to discuss what's happening and where it's going.
One time I found an influencer, and I want to play a bit of her video, and then once on the back side of it for us to discuss, and for everyone to maybe voice an opinion to see where we are, what we think about this. I have some very strong views, Tom, in thinking that this is a coverted effort to replace Black people and Black voters in this country. But let's see what everyone else thinks. Let's play the video.
On the south side of Chicago are mad as hell and they ain't gonna take it no more. And I cannot say that I blame them. So last week, city officials met with people in South Shore Chicago to tell them that more asylum seekers will be moved to their neighborhood. Specifically, there's an abandoned school that they want to turn into like a shelter to house what they say is like 200 to 300 immigrants that come into Chicago per day, right? But again, the black people, which is predominantly black on the south side of Chicago, says, nah, we don't want them here. In fact, some of them were saying, build the wall 2024, and just basically they can't come here because they said y'all want to allocate all of that money to help immigrants, but what about the people here? Now, they also said that they were told when Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who is leaving, got into office that they would entertain turning that school into some sort of a youth center. So they're like, we want that for us. Also, there's a lot of gun violence and homelessness going on there in the south side. So they're like, how y'all gonna spend all this money to help people who really do not belong here? But there's people here already struggling. So I want y'all to watch this video of this 11-year-old boy who said this.
Youngster!
I'm 11 years old. I'm wondering, why didn't they move into the Hispanic community?
I agree with him. Why y'all can't move them to the Hispanic part of town? Why y'all always moving people where we live? Now, y'all remember a couple of months ago, Lori Lightfoot pulled that mess with our black residents as well when they tried to move in immigrants. And it's like, there's other parts of Chicago, right? Like the people are saying, what about the north side? They're a little bit more affluent. They got a lot of vacant, nice buildings. Y'all could put the migrants in, but why y'all always dumping stuff over here on us? Well, we know why, because black people vote for the Democrats, and let's just keep it a buck. It's the Democrats in Chicago that's making those decisions to dump everybody else onto black people. And so I'm going to say this to us as black people, stop voting against our better interests. Those Negroes get in there on the help of black people, you know, making.
Okay, Tom, I think we get the gist of her point.
Okay.
So, I mean, what is your opinion? Are they dumping immigrants in the black areas? Or are they overlooking the fact that black people who've been here since the very beginning of this country, you know, make it great, still have problems, and you're basically extending an extremely helping hand to folks who haven't done anything for the country, who pretty much are coming here to suck up resources, and potentially at one point get a voter registration card and end up voting. So what say you?
First, I'm not surprised because, again, we've talked about this several times. Our ancestors built this country. We are a legacy of those who lived in order for us to see it. And of course, it doesn't matter what part of the country that you're in. Typically, black folks, whatever communities we're in, we're living in communities that are the most at risk in terms of healthcare problems. We're at risk if we look at New Orleans in terms of when tragedy happens. We're the ones who are impacted by it the most. You know, when it comes to economics, we are economically exploited and disenfranchised more than any other community. And at the end of the day, I'm just not surprised, whether it's in Chicago, whether it's in Baltimore, whether it's in Houston, whether it's in New Orleans, or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, we have to learn how to play the game of politics and make it work for us. And it goes beyond voting. Jimmy, I will agree with you to an extent. After you pull the lever, you got to ask for something. You got to demand something.
Tom, you need to be asking before you pull the lever. It needs to be an exchange. I'm not going to give you the vote unless you give me something in return.
Exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with leveraging your vote.
Right.
You should be able to ask for something in return for your vote.
Of course. But at any rate, I mean, every politician is going to make promises in order to get your vote. But in order for you to get something out of your vote, you have to demand something after, regardless of whether the person that you won is in office or the person that you didn't vote for got in office. You still have a right to ask for something. Number two, you got to start writing checks. You can't just voting is not enough. Until you start, no politician is going to pay attention to you if you do not write a check to either support their campaign and or pay for their vote. And let's keep it 100, Jimmy. It is paying for their vote. This is how this country works. This is how
with enough money you can buy votes, man. So you're right. The most important thing is money, not the votes.
Exactly. And so regardless of whether your person won or lost, what really matters is money. And until you start writing checks, until you start getting engaged with PACs that represent your interests, your community's interests, Yeah, you're going to be hurt every time. You're going to be frustrated every time. If we're
And Tom,
spending all the time,
what about the sentiment that the black area is a dumping ground?
it
You
is.
know that okay. So you think there's some truth to that, or enough truth to make it a
You
pretty
don't, you
common
don't even have to
statement?
ask me. Just look at the receipts. Just look at the history. I mean, if you look at, for instance, what happened, and we covered this earlier this year in, back Jackson, Mississippi. If we look at, what, and poverty is created, Jimmy. It doesn't just accidentally happen. I mean, poverty is created in this country, globally.
Well, Tom, I think the residents there are correct. There seemed to be an office glut in real estate going on. When there probably are a lot of office buildings that are empty. You know that that could be redesignated or reused for other purposes. So when the people ask, well, why not relocate some of these people to the north side or to the Hispanic area of town? I would think that's a valid question. No one seemed to have an answer as to
Because
why they're going to be dumped in your area.
the answer is they got a 25 to 50-year plan that they are funding, and our community has a weekend plan that
Tom, wait a minute, a
they're
weekend plan, Tom? Just a
weekend
weekend?
plan. Weekend
Okay,
plan.
okay. Does it include some barbecue and red soda?
Uh, maybe, maybe
Okay,
not.
okay.
But you got to play the long game if you're going to win in
They thought
politics.
they were playing the long game. The school that they were talking about was going to be set up to be a youth center. I mean, okay, get some kids off the street, put them behind some walls where they're safe, and hopefully can play and have a good time without having to worry about a drive by. Okay, and then you look up, and now they want to redesignate the building for the homeless shelter. And they're
Somebody
talking about picking up your homeless off your streets to put in the shelter. They're bringing people in, immigrants, to put
well,
in.
I would think, and I can't say this for sure, but I would think that that deal that was cut happened before they even knew it was coming.
Yes, Tom. They know to keep these things a secret until they have to publicly make some announcement. Then at that point, it's too late. You're right.
Folks don't just show up. So when when Greg Abbott, whomever, shipped immigrants from Texas to San Francisco or wherever, that didn't just happen the day of or the week before. Those deals were cut before people knew what was happening. Then they just happened to show up in Chicago. They just happened to show up in San Francisco. They just happened to show up wherever they show up.
Well, we will see what happens with this, Tom. As I mean, certainly the immigration at border is becoming an issue. I believe now it has overtaken um, abortions as being the number one divisive issue in America now. So we'll see. It's going to play into election politics come next year. Of course, we got a presidential race. A third of the Senate will be up for grabs, and all of the House of Representatives will be up for grabs. So
Good
we'll see
deal.
how this plays out.
We have a couple of comments that I want to make sure
Okay.
that we acknowledge. Mackie Samuels, the adverse impact of mass immigration in relation to Black Americans. Back of the hiring line, a 200-year history of immigration, surges, employer bias, and the depression of Black wealth by Roy Beck. So that is, I think, a book reference. And then also we have a couple of comments from our good friend Faith Fleming. What about balancing the impact of the tax base of the South Side, which also impacts home evaluation, building wealth, and all the other ancillary impacts? And why not allocate half of those apartments to provide better conditions for those already in South Side?
I agree, Tom.
Like Black homelessness,
I mean,
single parents, justice involved men. Audrey Booker, that's why your vote should be earned. Black people have to learn to be independent thinkers, and it's a no-brainer to see the Black vote benefit everyone coming over here who can't legally vote. Let me see. Gregory Harrington, what's going on? Barbecue and red soda. He said weekend plans are barbecue and red soda.
Red soda, I agree. That's what I said. Red soda. That's a staple, man. Barbecue and red soda for us. So you said we have weekend plans. That's always the first thought. So, but they're all absolutely correct, Tom. We do have to be more astute as to who we vote for, And it's okay to put your vote up for sale to the highest bidder. And then if they don't follow through with what they promised, to vote them out of office. We don't have to
Right.
continually give our vote away over party affiliation. So
vote and keep those who represent your interests. And if they don't represent your interests, when it comes back around, there's going to be a reckoning.
yes, they need to.
And
So
Jimmy,
Tom,
with that
we
being
are
said,
just about
it is 9 o'clock.
is right. We're just about out of time, Tom,
Yeah.
and we want to appreciate all of the comments. Also, one last reminder, people, that this is your show. Also, it's not just
Yeah.
our show. Please email any comments, any stories you want covered, any news you want us to share, and also if you have birthdays coming up, we can
Yes.
announce your birthday. We won't tell what year you were born, but we'll just say, hey, this week this person was brought into the world, and give you a happy birthday shout. Anything else, Tom, we need to cover before we leave?
I think we've got it, Jimmy. We've got it.
Okay, we'll see everyone next week, same time, same channel.
Because if it's Wednesday night.